We are here this morning with Christy Morris, and she was involved with the Garza Theater here in Post, Texas for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to just get an overall broad spectrum view.
Okay.
Just like what you did and your involvement and your time that you were with it.
1986 was when the Garza Theater reopened, or the idea basically was brought up to reopen the Garza as a community theater. A gentleman named Will McCrary, who had grown up here in Post, had gone off to New York and had made a living as an actor in theaters, and then his father became ill here in Post, and Will moved back here to take care of his dad, and he wanted to continue working with theater. And we had two. We had the Tower Theater downtown, and we had the Garza Theater, which were both abandoned at the time. And so Will was given the choice of choosing one of the two buildings to work with. The Garza had been built with a stage to use for live performances. In 1986, he decided to put together a group of people here in Post who were interested in helping to create that vision with him. I was teaching history at the high school at the time, but I had a degree in theater.
Oh, wow.
And so, but I just never had taught theater. The way it happened, I just ended up teaching history. And so I was one of the people that Will asked to be involved in this effort. And so we started out at that point looking at how much it was going to take to renovate the theater. We did several things. There was several different fundraising activities that went on to pull some money together. And the City of Post owned the building, and so they agreed to rent us the building for like $1 a year or something like that, but then everything else would be up to us as far as renovation and so on. By December, we had everything cleaned up down at the theater. We had the stage, we had some lighting. Of course, it was not the best lighting, but we had enough lighting that we felt like we could do a stage production there. And so the first show that we actually did in the Garza building was called My Three Angels. There were no chairs. We brought folding metal chairs we borrowed from various churches in the area. It was in December. There was no heating, so we took a photograph from the stage of the audience, and people were in their coats and hats pulled down, and several people had been smart enough to bring blankets, and so they were all tucked in. But everybody had such a good time. The play went over beautifully, and people realized that there was an opportunity here. There was interest in doing live theater. Unfortunately for our group, Will McCrary passed away in 1990. And so the board, which had been created, the theater board, invited Jane Prince Jones, who was a radio personality in Lubbock. And she became the managing director at that time, and served as managing director for the next 5 years. She was probably responsible for getting a lot of Lubbock people involved in it, and I've always been amazed that we had so many people from Lubbock, from all walks of life. We had lawyers and doctors and teachers and professors and more radio people who were willing to drive down here to do rehearsals for weeks on end. And then at the time, we were doing 3 weekends of performances. We were doing a Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday performance. And so these were people who were committed to, as I said, driving down for the rehearsals and then driving down 3 weekends in a row to do 3 different shows. And it was just always amazing how many people became so dedicated to this theater, and then to listen in later years to some of those people talk about the atmosphere that they felt when they came to the Garza, that it was a family thing, that people who might not have ever met each other in any other situation ended up becoming best of friends. And Jane was then managing director until 1995, and that's when she resigned, and the board asked me if I would take over as managing director, and I was agreeable to that. The only biggest difference, I guess, that I made is that Will had directed all of the shows that we did. While Jane was managing director, she directed all of the shows that were going on. Since I was still teaching full-time, I didn't feel like I had that, where I could do that, where I could dedicate that much of my time to do that. So I began to invite people to come down and direct. And so Jane directed a few more shows for us. A wonderful actor named Tim McIntyre became one of our guest directors. And then we had a lot of others, people who were involved in some of the community theaters in Lubbock joined forces with us. Mitchell Britton was one, Mickey Klofka. We just had so many who stepped up to direct a show at a time. A lot of our audience were older people who didn't want to drive at night, and so the Sunday matinee was just perfect. You know, they could drive down, have a meal at one of the restaurants here in town, and then come to the theater. So anyway, so that's the way we continued until 2011, when we had to close down the theater, and so that's my involvement.
What's the significance of bringing Garza Theater back to life?
I think part of it is that it's just the resilience of entertainment in that building. From the time it was constructed in 1916 through the different eras that it went through. It was originally called the Palace Theater, and then later on they changed the name to the Garza. It closed down in the 1950s, I believe. At some point after that, there was a fire there. You know, any one of these things could have completely done away with the building and with the opportunity to do any sort of entertainment there. Will brought it back. Jane kept it going. I feel like I had a part in keeping it going. And for you all to come in now, after it's been closed since 2011, and to have a vision of getting it back to being the public entertainment that it was meant to be, it just seems like a wonderful thing to see that revival going on time after time. So,
and we feel that, just like you stated, theater is such a relevant medium. You know, it's easy to go to the movies down the street and see something or flick on one of the streaming channels, but it is such a visceral interaction when you're looking at something that you know other people put their time and effort to transform into that person and watch them perform that. And so you know, that's something that has always been of great interest to me personally. You know, watching it, and then even having done some in high school. I was a behind the scenes person, but still,
which is also a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. But you know, so ultimately, you know, it's amazing to be able to have you as a resource, knowing everything that you know, the good and maybe the not so good, because that helps to show us the direction it needs to go.
Good.
For post. But also, interestingly enough, so we have found people all the way up in Alaska that at one point in time have performed in Garza Theater. There are people in the entertainment industry that there's one individual that is involved with a massive network, and the story, I believe, is that key that is around his neck used to go to Garza Theater.
That's our friend Jeremy Boring.
So, and so Garza Theater in little bitty Post, Texas has a massive footprint all over the United States, and some in other countries as well. So it's very interesting to think about that, you know, in a town of 4,500 people, that New Mexico and Houston and Austin and Lubbock, Colorado, Oklahoma City, they were all driving. Who started the sidewalk? So just so that there's a quick understanding, and we'll show some of this. There's a sidewalk in front of our theater that has productions, and it's kind of a walk of fame, if you will, for that. Whose idea was that?
That was Will's.
Okay.
The part of when we were renovating is that end of town had been, some of the buildings had been sitting vacant for a while, and the sidewalk was not in real good shape. It had crumbled in places and was bad. And so Will realized that we needed to replace the sidewalks. We needed to fix them just for a safety point of view. And so he came up with the idea that, well, while we're fixing the sidewalks, let's just make it kind of a little timeline here for the theater. So he would gather together the actors who had been in one of the shows that had just closed or had recently closed, and they would maybe do 3 or 4 sidewalk squares at a time, and we would get down there and do our handprints and sign our names and, you know, be real uptown about it. One of the things that I always really loved about our theater is how much involvement we had from young people in town, teenagers at the high school who became interested in working with us down here, little kids that we worked with from different times, and to see them come back many years later and find their name and remember what it was like to be in Midsummer Night's Dream when they were 8 years old.
Sure.
So that's where this sidewalks came from, and a big part of the meaningful memories.
That's awesome. Well, I look forward to being able to learn a lot more of the history.